Let's go through distribution for just a second, because there's really three types of distribution. I just want to show you these charts for a second. So we know probably we have three forms of distribution that we need to understand: owned media, paid media, and earned media. Is there anybody that does not deeply understand these three? Want me to go over them a little bit? Would that be helpful? All right, I'll speed my way through it. Owned media are things like your blog. You have full control of this. Your website, social media accounts, marketing content, other assets. You own and control this content, and you create a steady stream of it. Paid media is obviously you're amplifying your content. Larry Kim is going to deliver a fabulous keynote tomorrow on content amplification that only Larry could deliver himself. He's amazing. So what you need to do is you need to use your own channels as the place that you toss out acorns of opportunity to see what gets picked up, what gets shared, what you get comments on, and then you need to amplify the best and most likely places that could benefit from paid advertising to amplify that in a sphere. It's a simple concept, but you need to be pushing all three of these channels. Earned media is a little bit different, and it's a little bit harder, and it's clearly the most challenging. Your content, your stories, your solutions, your ideas need to make their way out into the world, and that's more difficult to get picked up. Here I'm talking about articles being written, or you writing articles in various media channels. You need to earn the right to be a publisher on another channel. But all of your content strategy pistons are firing when you have all three of these going. So what's really interesting here, I'm not sure if everybody can see this, but notice this sort of sweep right here of how this moves a little. So in the discovery stage of the journey, you're going to get more bang for the buck if you have an article written in Forbes magazine, or if you're featured in a major publication, or even if you're guest blogging in another resource. You're building your authority source, or, as we talked about earlier, you have a really great informational, a curated piece of content that's well documented, that's getting shared, that's getting passed around, that offers tremendous value. That's going to help the early discovery stage. Awareness, you're going to need to amplify some of your content that you learn about, that you create organically. You're going to need to pay probably to play, if you will. And that is going to bring people into the awareness. For example, when somebody visits your website, they're going to have opportunities to retarget to them based upon their IP address, so you can begin targeting to them other assets that may be interesting, right? So that's an example of paid. Then you move over to trial, and here you probably are going to be reading your websites and checking out your videos and doing all the things that you produced on your own. But notice that there has to be this transition here, right? If you have holes up here, you're not going to bring people to the top of the funnel. So then it spins backwards, and you can sort of see, I'm sure, why people are going to tend to share information that's worthy, that's researched, that's more thought leadership. So you need to hit all of these pistons and all of these journeys. And then the same thing happens in the next slide, where we look at, remember those three assets that I was telling you about, the thought leadership assets, the informational assets, the products and services, and the experience. Once again, it sort of bell curves around, right? So you're beginning to see if you're weak, if you're weak on the thought leadership side, you're going to be in trouble. You're not going to drive the traffic in and bring it around. So owned is limited, and that's where we're playing for the most part, is trying to create content on our websites that's not performing. We don't understand why. We try to create more content, it doesn't work. We try to optimize, it doesn't work. No, it's your reach that matters. It's your shareability that matters. It's your lack of creating content for different stages of the journey to address the pain points, right? So that's the big takeaway. There's a lot of super cool details in here that are in your book that will explain this whole process. There's some tips, there's some advice. We really know most of these channels. I'll talk about podcasting. Maybe, how many people are podcasting? A couple interesting. How's it going? Pretty good? So here's a couple tips for you on podcasting. So you really need to choose a niche you can own, right? It has to obviously offer value. It needs to be more thought leadership driven. You've got to get freakishly good at interviewing people, because if it's a solo blog with you rambling on, it's really not worth it. You need to bring in guests. Why do you need to bring in guests for podcasting? Why would that be critical and imperative? Anybody have an idea? Break up the monotony, maybe, but you know what it is? It's reach. Every time you bring in a guest, they have their own audience that they agree to market it to. So you're expanding your reach. That's the secret to blogs. As mentioned, I've done 350 blogs over at Writer Access. Well, Writer Access have done probably 150. We cater our podcasts at Writer Access to writers, really. We bring in authors that have written books, that are authorities, that have a big reach, and they'll tweet it. We'll do a great podcast. They love the questions. I've gotten very good at interviewing people. And boom, they'll tweet it. They're happy to share it. But the key to podcasts, in my opinion, is going back to my Socratic techniques, getting really, really good at asking questions. There's two schools of thought there. One, you're just a really inquisitive person, which I happen to be. Or number two, you do really good research. And you can really come up with great questions in advance that will always surprise and delight your audience. All right, let's go down to, I'm going to skip over paid because there's just way too many choices, with the exception of this one slide. Is anybody using, Taboola, any of these sites, Outbrain? Anyone using any of these? A couple people. These are really secret sauces, secret weapons for you. When you publish great informational content, you can use these distribution channels to get your content out there. And you have to pay to play, but it's imperative that you select the assets that are worthy and amplify them, and that's really how you do it. So earned media, lots of tips and advice in here for you. I think the biggest problem, honestly, with earned media is coaching up your thought leaders in your company on what to do and what not to do when it comes to trying to share ideas. The big thing that you really need to do is you need to bring ideas to the marketplace, not your products and services. I had an interview with a publication recently that was doing a story on CMC and how I choose speakers. And I said, actually it's really simple. Anybody that I screen and view that will be speaking here in the next couple of days, I request a phone discussion with them, and I want to talk with them on the phone. And within a matter of 30 seconds to 1 minute, I can make a decision whether or not they'll be a great speaker or not. Guess what it is? Guess what they screw up when they're talking to me? Any ideas? Exactly. Exactly. They start talking about what they sell and how great their company is, and then followed by how great they are, which is great. I want to know that, but I get very nervous as a chair that people are going to stand up on the stage and be motivated to sell their products and services. It's so simple. So when we're trying to earn our way into media, we're so hung up with our products and our services and how great our company is. We made the Inc. 5000 list 3 years in a row, which we did, by the way, which is pretty cool, especially with no funding. But anyway, back to, see, I'm selling right there. That was a test, right? So that's the key. And there's some really cool tips in here on this page right here, which is lead with the idea, not what you do with your services. Make sure your ideas are fleshed out and have depth. Explore the impact on the audience. These are critical things, so enjoy.